Okay, go ahead and take it away.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Gabriel. This workshop's going to be 10 steps to starting an esports team. I kind of want to use this video recording series to kind of serve as a way to share kind of what esports is, right? How to get started, and try to help remove or alleviate, any of the barriers you might have when it comes to exploring this really exciting new world. And exploring esports as an avenue for growth and engagement with your students. Okay? Even if you don't play any video games yourself, you can watch through this demo and kind of have a couple things to take away to see how to run a program, even if you're not a gamer yourself. So I'll be sharing all the mistakes and learning experience I've had while making our esports program. So you can focus on taking all your teacher and educator skills and really hone in on helping your students engage with esports safely and with academic rigor. Okay, so in this workshop, we're going to be starting off first introductions and creating an overview of what esports is and the current ecosystem with it. Then we'll talk a little bit about why you might want to consider making your own program. If this is something that's going to be new to you, or even if you're just looking for a secondary club or something, or your students are hounding you to make a esports program, some of the things to consider, maybe saying yes to them. Okay, then we'll go over the easy 10 steps to actually building out your program and playing your first match. And then we'll cover where to get assistance with starting your program. And then at the very end, we'll have some Q&A and get any additional information and talk story a little bit. So let's begin. So you can see this is some of the population that we're going to be serving. We recently had our Hawaii Esports Alliance had their Vanta Leagues championships at the Hawaii Pacific University Esports Arena, and we got some of the kids with the Smash Bros and got some college swag to go with them as well. Okay, so introduction, a little bit about me. My name is Gabriel Yanagihara. I teach at Iolani School. I teach video game design, programming, design and fabrication. And I'm also the head coach for the esports team. And on the side, I do workshops like this, where I kind of share all the cool new technology that we're playing with, or the new things that we see on the educational horizon, and kind of spread it out with everyone. I'm also really excited about joining with esports and getting that spread out to as many schools as we can right now. I think currently where esports is being run at between 30 and 40 high schools in Hawaii, with plans for about 270 more. In middle school, high school, even some elementary schools are playing around with it, creating these safe areas and safe spaces for them to play. Okay. We also dabble a little bit in like any of the new emerging technologies, right? Like machine vision learning, generative AI art, and chat GPT. So let's dive in a little bit about our program. Okay. Reset my timer. Okay. So our esports program started in 2019. It started where I was eating lunch in my classroom. We had about 13 students come in to my classroom at once, and I'm standing there, eating my plate lunch, and I just see them all look at me with like starry-eyed, like, "Hey, Mr. Y, we heard you play video games, and we want to start an esports team. Will you be our club advisor?" You can't say no to that. So I was like, yeah, sure, but there's no way a prep school, an academic school, is going to be on board with this. You guys are going to be doing AP classes. You're not going to have time for gaming. But they were really adamant about it, and they put together a pitch deck. So we worked on our, I'll go over more of this for how you can do it as well, but they worked on their master document. They made a slideshow. They showed up in suit and tie, and they presented to admin, talking about how they really wanted this space. It was well received, and admin told us that we could try to fit ourselves into a lecture hall. So another classroom space that we could sneak in after school and build out our teams. When we founded it out, we formed two different avenues for it. One is the club space, which is just a safe place that we create on campus where students can engage with gaming. It's pretty much well established that all of our kids play video games in some regard, whether it's a small mobile phone, whether it's full headset gaming gear like I have here, but they all engage in it, right? Even as teachers, right, we'll play on our phones during break and lunch break, even if we don't really admit to it every time. So that's the club space, welcoming, wholesome, very inclusive, a place to make friends and meet people. And then from that community, those who got really good and wanted to go for college scholarships or get into a college esports team, we formed some competitive teams from there. To some, a bit surprised to me, because I didn't think our students played that many video games. even with the limited game time that they're allowed to have. We ended up doing pretty good, placing pretty well with some state and making runner-up in a national tournament. So once we got our whole team built up, right? So once we got our group of 12 students, we started building out our esports arena. So that included like, making posters, putting it around campus, setting up a online community, a Discord server to kind of facilitate everything, setting up an email address, kind of doing all the club activity things that you would have to do for a key club or anything else, running information meetings, running tryouts, all that kind of fun stuff. And for me as the advisor, there wasn't a whole lot I had to do. I just had to be the one to sign off on the paperwork for the students, and then they were able to run and facilitate a lot of it. It is now 2023. We have over 300 club members. We have 10 volunteer coaches coming in. We have an elementary, middle school, and high school program, so clubs and competitive teams, as well as classes on esports leadership and management that are run in the summer for that. Currently, we're partnering with the Hawaii Esports Alliance, which is partnered with UH Manoa and Hawaii Pacific University and other institutions in Hawaii to kind of share esports with everyone and kind of bring it to to a point where we can all experience esports, and that can serve as a place for kind of sharing best knowledge. It's kind of like workshops like this, right, where we get to come around and experience and learn more about esports. So just for ours, right, we have elementary, middle school, and high school. Over at Iolani, we have, we do League of Legends, Overwatch, Rocket League, Valorant, Super Smash Bros, and a bunch more. You can see down below, pretty much the way I have it set up is any student who comes to me and wants to form a team from the club area, they just have to create a pitch deck, much like the founding students did, convince me to allow that game. If it's a game with like, first person, or third person like Overwatch or Valorant, they have to, show that the benefits outweigh any of the conflicts or challenges that might have with running that game. And they need to have a leadership structure for how to do it. So we play a whole lot of different games. So to the point where scheduling in our little esports arena can be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, so let's talk about the whole esports ecosystem. This is just a photo from the HPU esports arena where we have Punahou versus Iolani Valorant exhibition match. And in the front, we have the League of Legends. They're just doing an ARAM between their between rounds. You can see them all hanging out and setting up there. So there's a whole broadcast component into it as well, but we'll dive into that in a little bit. So in simple terms, we're just going to go over what esports is. Okay, so in general, esports is referring to competitive video game play, right? Typically at a professional level, but now is scaling down a lot into high school, middle school, elementary school as a place where students can get that same level of competition or same feeling of competition, but within like a safe area within their school system, right? Not with random strangers online. So it can encompass a wide variety of games, right? Some of them are Rocket League, which is basically soccer with cars, which is a weird premise, but it's been really popular. League of Legends, which is 5 versus 5. A way I like to explain to people is imagine you and 5 friends are playing chess with 5 other people. There are 5 boards and there are no turns. You move as fast as you can. So it's a tug of war, massive multiplayer online battle arena where they compete and everything. It's also Fortnite, Super Smash Bros, Valorant, Overwatch, NBA, and a lot of the sports titles, like Madden, FIFA, those kind of titles as well. It's been growing rapidly in popularity in recent years with professional players and teams and even colleges offering scholarships to those students to come and play. And they can range from small local competitions, like we do a thing called the Iolani Invitational, where we bring in a couple of schools. We connect with a mainland school, a school from Asia, and as many local schools as we can, and we just do a fun weekend tournament. To something much larger, like HHSAA, the Hawaii the Athletic Association for the state has partnered with a vendor to provide official high school tournament here, to national tournaments where if you do really well on your local league, you can enter out to the national side and really go far with it. After handling all the competitive side, there's a whole other secondary ecosystem where it comes to streaming services, merchandise, all the other social media, broadcasting, right? ESPN style conversation, game review and that kind of stuff. So overall, and this is more on the academic side, just so you understand where the money is situated and everything. We have the overall esports ecosystem. So in the outer circle, right, that outer dot, that's all gaming on your phone, right, on your computer, on your Xbox, PlayStation, VR headset, whatever. And that accompanies everyone that plays video games. From that general population, which is huge, we have amateur competitive gaming, which is, something like you and your 5 friends hop on for a weekend tournament together, kind of like the equivalent of like a rec league for the sport, right? Something in your local intramurals. From those groups, right, and from that ecosystem, it goes up into channels, right? So inside that is the channels, which is the broadcasting avenue. So how people engage and watch esports. That's Twitch, YouTube, a whole bunch of other secondary services that allow you to watch and engage with the sport, similar to ESPN, Monday Night Football, you watch in and you do it. Part of that channels thing, right, creating the content, we have teams, right, which is like Cloud9, right, Team Liquid. These are professional esports teams that compete in these tournaments, and those are broadcasted on the channels. We have publishers. These are the big companies that make these video games. There's Riot Games, Valve, Activision, Blizzard, right? Any of the games, Psyonix. These are the developers that make the software and sell the games or publish out the games that the competitive users and the amateurs and the all gamers play. Down below is the leagues. So these are the league organizers. So these are the people who organize the tournaments, okay? This is, GSL, League of Legends World Championships. There's ones for Super Smash Bros. There's ones for pretty much every title out there. And they're the ones who, collect dues or handle the prize pool, get everyone hyped out. They work with the publishers and the teams to kind of be like, okay, we're going to run a tournament thing. We want to do a League of Legends tournament. So they'll work with the publishers to get special servers for that. They'll sign on the teams and offer them like, all right, base salary, 60,000 per person just to compete. And then winner gets the whole prize pool, right? All the way down. And then the publishers and the league might set minimum required salaries for the players. So I think last time I checked up, I think it was like 60 to 68,000 a year minimum, but you're not going to get a good team on that. So it's starting to go the route of professional football players. We're seeing 6 figures, high 6 figures for team signups. Next is going to be the events. So the events thing is, locally, it might be like KawaiiCon. These are the people who host the actual set up the stadium, set up the esports arena, and run the league's championship matches, right? Or special exhibition matches. They've filled entire football stadiums with people. Instead of the football field, they swap it out for a platform with all the gaming hardware and the big screens to watch everything with the announcers and everything, and they hype all that up. So the financial side that's running all this is coming in from brands, right? The people who make the keyboards, headsets, right? These guys, all the way to Samsung, all the tech companies, right? Even other sponsors like Red Bull, Intel, right? These are, all the different companies coming in because this whole ecosystem, right? So they service this entire ecosystem of gamers. And of course, all the consumers, which is all the people who come in and buy stuff or pay for, is not quite pay-per-view tickets, but they're paying for like the viewing of these tournaments and championships and everything. Okay, for our end, so that was the whole academic side. I just want you guys to be aware of that, all cards on the table, there's a whole bunch of money involved with esports. For us specifically as educators, I'm more concerned about this mess of a slide, which, if you're watching from home, like, I'm going to have the slides up. You guys can reference them later, but I just wanted to show all the different career paths that are in esports. That previous slide kind of go over like all the different funds and jobs and careers that are going into making this esports ecosystem happen. And this slide is talking about the exact career paths, right? And these are skills that if your students are running your esports program, will develop. And as they get more and more involved with running a tournament, doing their own broadcast, that kind of stuff, those are going to be transferable to a lot of other careers that they have. Things like, teamwork, leadership, communication, strategic planning, all the basic, leadership skills that we want in people, right? Even emotional management, task management, A lot of the games really align themselves to making, I teach a video game design class, and one of the things I like to say is video games are just problems we like to solve. They're fun. They have a little sparkle at the end that says, good job, you did good on that math calculation, which was you planning out how much gold or items you have versus the opponent team, coming up with a strategy, and having to do that in split-second decisions. So for the job roles, right, you can become, if the kids are really excited, right, they can become a professional coach or player. I try not to push the player side too much, because just like telling someone they're going to be an NFL player, it's more of a bit of a survivorship bias. Like a 1% of the best players might make it, but the secondary ones are the ones I'm really excited about, right? Being a shoutcaster host, right? We've seen people go from casting on their own to their high school to having big followers on Twitch and they cast game, to working on broadcast, ESPN, right? Twitch, YouTube from there. Journalists, right? We have ChatGPT is dealing with that a little bit right now, but there's still all the journalists and game writers talking about how the matches are going, interviews with the players, right? Observers, admins, referees, right? People who organize and facilitate these, often multi-million-dollar events. Broadcast productions is pretty much getting to, surpassing what a lot of news stations are doing, right? They're going to have a lot more advanced technology and cuts and technology available for them. Obviously, the community and social media manager, brand managers, operations, right? How do you manage a facility of 10,000 people and hundreds of thousands of dollars of very delicate equipment, right? All the way down to video editor, photographer, and maybe at the very bottom there is a PD person, which is me going around and talking about this stuff. Their academic links. So a lot of my students who've graduated already, pretty much this is a list of all the type of avenues they're going into. A lot of them are going into the computer sciences. A lot of them are going into the engineering, right? If your hobby is solving problems rapidly in a little video game, you're gonna align yourself with those types of STEM degrees. Secondary on the creative media, the really vibrant and social ones are really going into the, oh wow, I could, I'm pretty good at getting a crowd hyped up and wiped up. I want to go into communications and advertising. Some of them want to start their own businesses, going off as that, okay? The new ones now, right? We're seeing a shift in tech a little bit right now, but more than ever, cybersecurity, software development, big data, and analytics is a big part. Any of the cloud solution, and these are all industries that work with esports right now. So a lot of our professional gamers, the ones who go out and play games, end up networking with these people, right, in their esports careers. And then later it's like, okay, well, I got my entire college degree paid for by being on an esports team at the collegiate level. While I'm playing video games, I'm going to have that pay for me to become a computer science designer, a computer science graduate, and then get a job at one of these. Maybe starting in esports, and maybe once you get a little bit older and like you're not as interested in games, you transfer over to database management and you make 3 times as much, and you've got your life set ahead of you from there, right? Okay, so yes, there's a huge ecosystem. Yes, there's a pathway for all the students, but on the individual side with the students, what benefits are they going to have while they're in my classroom, while they're with me? What benefits are they getting for having esports? So we talked a little bit about the jobs and careers, right? For a lot of students who don't really see past, the next week, seeing and engaging with people who are as passionate about something as they are kind of gets the gears turning and thinking about, oh, wow, okay, so I like playing video games. Someone had to make this video game. Someone's casting it. The person I see on the screen talking about this, like that's a job, that's a career. I'm going to engage with this a bit more and see the skills that I need to get. Kind of starts them on that career thinking track a lot earlier, okay? Academic excellence is another one, right? I'm sure many of you guys know the old tropes. When I was growing up, playing video games means sitting on a couch by yourself in your basement with a controller, staring at a screen, not talking to anyone or not socializing, right? We've switched that a little bit where the students who are doing really well in esports have that academic rigor in the background. The other way it's worked really good is as a carrot for even the students who are struggling. So for my esports program, in order to be in the room and facilitate with the esports program, it's a 3.0 GPA requirement, A's and B's only, okay? It seems like a high regard, but I didn't set that. The founding students set that because they really wanted to combat the perception that oh, video gamers are lazy or not very smart or, socially inept kind of thing. They're like, no, if you're on the esports team and you're allowed to play video games as part of your academic experience, you need to represent esports really well and make it so, nobody can say, oh, you're getting all C's and a little bit of D's and you're just showing up and playing video games, right? We set a high standard as possible, and you highly suggest doing that for your program as well. College scholarship is another one. I think in our last check-in, there are like 500 to 600 colleges already who offer some sort of esports scholarship, some offering even full ride scholarships for being on the esports program, right? And some of these colleges are really good. UCI is a really great program. Manoa, Hawaii Pacific University, even University of Hawaii West Oahu is launching their esports program. University of Hawaii Maui campus is getting their esports program running right now. So there's a bit of a gold rush, right? If you're a gamer right now, if you're a junior, senior right now, and you want to get your school paid for, there's a great opportunities out there right now, okay? Obviously, invaluable skills. We do so much work trying to get social emotional learning in our classrooms, and video games is a perfect way because you're so invested in that game, you're gonna get pissed off, you're gonna want to swear, you're gonna want to do a bunch of dumb stuff. It's so many learning opportunities per day that we find in gaming that it's one of those situations where we really need to get involved with it and use our esports areas to kind of teach them those skills. Social emotional side too, but also the tech side too, because you can play the teacher roles like, I don't know how to fix this computer, you go do it. You go open YouTube, you watch the videos, you show me how to fix this hardware. We're not going to call ITS. If you want this to work, you got to get it to work. And if you don't know how, use ChatGPT or use one of the AIs that are out right now and ask it like, hey, my computer doesn't turn on correctly. What's the 10 things I should do, right, etc. The other one, because gaming is so universally accepted in terms of like the students engaging with it, inclusion and acceptance is good, right? We have a very open policy where everyone's welcome to walk in. As long as you have the grades, get involved, get engaged. If you don't have the grades, we have a mentorship program for you. We have peer tutoring. We'll help you get involved with it as much as possible. Okay, so it becomes like a social hub for the students to kind of engage with each other. And you as the facilitator, make sure you create that safe place, right? No bullying, no mean, no toxicity. And we have a lot of students who are brand new at Iolani who come in. We have a group that's formed Dungeons and Dragons campaigns from there. And these are people who very meekly kind of peek their head in like, hey, you guys have video game computers? That's kind of cool. But they haven't made this like their first week at the school, and they haven't made a whole lot of friends yet besides, besides our outreach programs that we do. And of course, being not afraid of technology. I have a couple of students in some of my other classes who are like, oh, I don't know how to do computer stuff. It's not my thing. But then when, two of them, when, she is now our head of, running our entire Discord server, right? From being like, oh, I don't really use social media. I don't use tech stuff. It's kind of scary to, I understand the dangers of it. I understand the best way to interact with it. And I am now managing 300 students in an esports program. Community engagement is another one, right? And our schools are very insular. It's very hard to get our students to safely engage with the outside world. Esports is a great way to connect with other schools, other campuses, and even the college level too, to kind of see, oh, this is what college life is like. I really want to do that. I wanted to give college a try because playing with those college kids and beating them was the coolest experience of the semester, right? And then fostering, okay, it says foster STEM learning, right? Learning how to do the coding, learning how to put your computers together, manage all that stuff is great little add-ons. Okay, hopefully that's giving you like a rough overview of esports and all the backgrounds and everything that we got to deal with. Let's dive into actually making our esports program. Okay, so to get us first started, we want to make sure you find a core starting group of students, right? You're not going to be able to squeeze water out of stone. So you need a core group of students to work with. You can do this through club days, daily bulletins, announcements, or just word of mouth. Or you can just sit there and eat lunch until a kid comes by and have like, make it known that you're willing to do an esports program, and they're going to find you, right? Like for me, like I said earlier, I was just eating lunch and they heard that I play video games, and then a bunch of kids showed up at my door to run a program. I would say from that, I worked with 12, but really 3 to 5, if you can get 3 to 5 students who are driven to create an esports program, you're in a really good starting point, right? You're gonna have to preface it with them, like not just like, oh, sweet, yeah, you can play games, here's an Xbox, right? You preface it to have that conversation with them that says like, hey, we're at a school, and even like lean into it a little bit, right? Like there's no way admin's going to let you play this. There's no way the school is going to let you do this. But if you want it bad enough, right, I will be your advisor and support you. Okay. You work on the presentation, you work on that, you convince the school to do it, and I'll be there to back you up, and I'll be the faculty advisor. These students are going to form into your leadership team, and they're going to teach you a lot about esports. There are a couple other sessions at this conference talking about how much students teach you about social media, students teach you about new technology stuff. This is going to be one of those situations where you're like, you know, all right, we'll do an esports program. What do I need to do? And they're going to give you like pages and pages of like, you know, we should get this computer and this headset, or I was watching online and this had really good reviews. I want to play this video game. Oh, I heard my friend at this other school is doing this. So they're going to be hounding you with information. You can just work with them to kind of hone that, funnel that into productivity. And there's also going to be the ones that are going to manage your program, right? So that you don't have to, it doesn't take a whole lot of hours out of my day to run my esports program, because the students run probably about 90% of it. I just kind of sign up like, yep, we're good today. All the computers are still here at the end of the day. You know, I call the other coach at the end of the match, like, yep, everything went good. All right, we're good. Have a good one. Okay, so you met your first group of students. They're really excited. You're hopefully really excited. But what are the next steps after that? So next is going to be planning out your game plan. Okay, any plan is better than no plan. You just need something to start with. But for us, the way I would suggest doing it with our program, at least, again, because I'm just speaking from experience on my end, was to develop a pretty comprehensive plan that outlines your goals for your program. What is your main objective for your first year, right? Do you just want to create a safe, inclusive space? Do you want to have one competitive team and just support them? They're already good. They've already played a lot and they want to do better. What do you want to do with your first year? Okay. That might, you know, I think ours was like 12 pages. You don't have to be that in depth. Just like, I want, you know, what are my I wants for this? Secondarily, with your students, sit down and talk it out, like identify key stakeholders in your community. This is going to be your support network, right? Is there an admin who plays video games, right? Is there someone who is there a computer science teacher? Is there a lab tech? Is someone from the IT office willing to kind of engage with you guys and help be guidance on that end as well? Once you've kind of identified, even on the community side, right? There's a lot of nonprofits in Hawaii. The Hawaii Esports Alliance is a great resource. HPU, any of the facilities that are working with esports already are great stakeholders that you can reach out to for support. Maybe it's grants for free computers, maybe it's mentorship, right? Having a college student come in and be like the skills trainer I'll talk about later, that kind of stuff. So as you research and evaluate the different games, this is where your role is going to come in as an adult. The kids are going to want to play everything. They play everything already. We're a bit hamstrung and we're limited in what we're allowed to play, whether you're DOE or private school, or how conservative your admin is with different game titles and how much flack they might get if they allow certain games. But one thing I would sit down with your kids and find out is, okay, what games do you want to play, right? And then what games are we allowed to play, right? So obviously on my end, we ended up with a couple of parameters that decide and determine if a game is allowed to be run in our esports program, okay? So I have a couple of policies and procedures that I formed with that founding group of students. We had a code of conduct, right? Wholesome positivity. We had a whole meme called the hashtag Christian Minecraft server based off some YouTube videos that you saw back in the day. And if anyone saw anything, I'm going to go over it a little bit more later, but it's a way of creating a wholesome environment. We came up with a schedule for how to do tryouts. We had a Google form and all that stuff. And then we figured out with a Google Calendar how to schedule our game times with everybody. In terms of the appropriateness for the games, right? So the barometer I have, right, is nothing that has a realistic gun, right? I mean, obviously we have to deal with that. No real weapons, right? That's the barometer that I have. No blood, right? No, like realistic blood in the game, and nothing that would be on a list of trigger warnings, right? Very rarely these days are we having popular games that would accompany to all that, because as you saw before in the publisher side, all the publishers want their games to be played as esports, with students, with everybody. So they make very specific design choices to make it so, hey, this game would be okay for a high school team to play and still be attractive to the general population. So the tests I have, right, no guns, no anything like that. The other tests that I have, so they're not playing, games that don't benefit them in the long run, is if you can show me that there is a national tournament that we can win, right? That's one rule. The second rule is there a college? Find me a college that you're interested in that has a full ride scholarship to that game. If you can find me that college and show me the proof of it, I'll put that in your presentation, and I'll fight to have that game played on our campus. Okay, so the way we split your game plan for your club, right? To manage it, even in the very beginning, I would highly suggest just setting this in the beginning so you don't have to like roll back any changes later, is split between club level and competition level. You want to be as wholesome and welcoming to people as possible. So you don't want to, like, nobody wants to be cut from an esports team, right? That's not a very good look. But the club level is open to all students with a 3.0 GPA or higher. And the club is run by the student leadership team with an adult advisor. Most likely you to start, but it might just be a parent or a faculty member who doesn't play games who is willing to help the kids with the paperwork involved with running a club. Okay. This is going to give you a lot of leadership training for the students, and it's going to give you a big pool of players to pull from for your competitive teams. So the club serves as like your talent pool, right? So you start an esports program, your first year, you might have 12 players in the club. And then from that, maybe you'll get 3 really good Smash players, and then they can form a team to play, right? So the official teams on the competition level are selected either through, tryout events or self-organized with the student population. I've done it both ways. In the beginning, I wanted to be friend-based, which is we're not going to win tournaments, but you come to me with 5 of your buddies for League of Legends or 3 of your buddies for Smash Bros, and I'll register you as a team as long as your grades are good. Okay. Now we've transitioned a little bit because the kids are getting really competitive with it. So we've transitioned to actually having tryouts for the top tier teams, and all the secondary teams are just being, hop in with some buddies and play that way. Top tier teams will maybe do like 1 or 2 afternoons or even weekend online using Discord to run a tournament. And then the top players from that tournament make the team, right? And they work with the coach. So that's a little bit of a culture shift that we're going through, because originally you're already friends with everyone on your team, or you made friends with them in the club and then you're playing together. But now you're being placed on the team, much like other sports, right? You're being placed on a team with the other best players that we can get. You don't necessarily know them beforehand, and you're kind of building that relationship in the competitive scene together. Second, the other thing you can do with the differentiation on this is you can set up a system for training your teams who wish to play together, but not in paid tournaments, right? There are a lot of free tournaments you can just hop in and play for no, just go have fun with it. Vanta Leagues has a great free tournament offering. I think Hawaii Esports Alliance sometimes has local tournaments that you can just hop in and play, or just scrimming with other teams. So 2 different tiers. Everyone can play. Everyone's welcome, and let's try win a state title, right? That's kind of like the split that we got, or go for a college team. Okay, once you've got your group of students, you kind of have your master document planned out, like, all right, we want to have a safe first year. We want to play these 2 games. We want to get all set up. Next, before you grow and need it, do it before you need it to start recruiting your overall staff for your program, okay? The best method we've been using is having 3 tiers of people engaged with esports, because just like any other club, you can't ask every adult to have a 100% commitment to the program. So I start with tier 1 is the director. So this is, in my case, it's me. In this case, it'll be you, the one forming and setting up the program. This is the person who reports to admin and coordinates the overall program, right? You're the one who pays the bills. You're the one who schedules the lab use, the tech use. Basically the buck stops with you, right? From that, and even for myself, I'm not good at any of the games that we work with. So I need a tier 2 skills trainer, okay? This is an alumni, a community manager, a college esports student. This is an adult with a specific game knowledge, right? And coaching skills who will work with their students on the individual games. So in your program, you might, okay, you're the director, you open up your classroom, you get 2 switches, and then you're going to find a skills trainer. So maybe you find a college student from a local college who is willing to mentor your students in how to play Super Smash Bros. You're in the room supervising. they hop in via Zoom or Discord video call, and they talk with their students, they watch them play the game, and they give them feedback, right? They actually have all the moves memorized, they know all the characters, they know all that other stuff. And especially when you're starting off, finding a volunteer for this is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. A lot of people are going to want to get that coaching experience, right? Your job might just be, in our case, we do background checks, we do all that onboarding, make sure we have them in our system, so that it's someone we're familiar with and okay with them working with our students. If you're like me and I have 17 teams, you might have 17 volunteer skill trainers, right, to work with those teams. There's also services that you can just pay in for, or get coaching remote. Vanta Leagues has some really good stuff. I know there used to be a couple other like free online coaching services, but I think their grant money is shifting a little bit and they're going back to the paid route. But you can find someone to help teach your kids how to actually get good at it, right? So that might be like in other sports, like the weight room trainer, the athletic trainer, the offensive coach kind of thing. Then tier 3, this is a quality of life one that I found was really important in the beginning, because as soon as your program starts scaling to at least 10 to 15 kids, they're going to be wanting to meet multiple days per week. They're going to be wanting to get more equipment, and then as a program scales, it's it's exponential, right? When in terms of roles and responsibilities. So tier 3 is just your supervisors, right? This is just a parent, grandparent, faculty member, right? Someone willing to sit with your students and be the adult in the room, right? Even if it's a coworker, or in our case, we've had some alumni who come in, they just quiet study and they're doing their college studying, but they're just in the room to hop in case they're needed, right? In case an adult needed, a computer, explodes or lights on fire or fire alarm goes off or something like that. So you as a director don't have to sit there after school for 2 hours every day, right? You might be there 1 day a week. In my case, I have after school esports classes. So I run our elementary school esports programs, and then some of the week I'm with middle school and some of the week I'm with high school. And then my volunteer supervisors fill in the extra space so that there's always a room with the students. They're never left unsupervised with the gaming equipment. And a lot of our skill trainers are remote, right? So we'll have a tier 3 supervisor in the room. They unlock the door, let the students in, right? Help them with any tech issues like, oh, my computer's not turning on, right? And then they had the kids hop online, and then they talk with their skills coach there. But like we were saying, you only need yourself to start. Like you can see, like I'm hanging out with all my online coaches and talking about all the different projects they've got as well. Okay, so like we said before, right? Way over there, head coach is you facilitate the program. Team title skilled coach, right? So this is, find one skilled adult per team that you have that's willing to meet and talk. If you're really good, you can do both hats. I would suggest just finding someone to work with that team. Especially if it scales up to my side, obviously you can't have a close interpersonal relationship with 300 something students. So I let the skills coach and the supervisor coach organize their group of 5 or 6 students, right? And then both of these are kind of interchangeable. Technical skills coach is something we found, right? I have someone, bring in a guest speaker, like, all right, how do I use OBS? How do I use a broadcasting software for my program? Okay, you can bring in someone from your IT office to talk about what are the parts of a computer, right? You can bring in like one of the person who broadcasts your football games, right? And have them come in, like, hey, here's how we broadcast the football games. You can do the same thing for your esports program, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a secondary add-on, especially with the STEM skills, really good to have as part of your program. Okay, so I know we talked a little bit. I really wanted to go into depth. This is a mountain of text. I'll have the link to the threads there, but I just want to make sure you have an easy template to take away the barrier of having to figure this out. So director, right? You serve as the liaison for your club or your program and Department of Education, HHSAA programs, or anyone that you're competing with. You manage the structured participation in competitive tournaments, whether it's Vanta Leagues, Hawaii tournaments, Play VS, HHSAA tournaments, high school esports league, national tournaments, et cetera, right? So you're the contact point for those big tournaments. You're gonna help your team with tryouts from the club, transitioning people from club members to the esports program. So they'll be contacting you, be like, hey, I'm from the club, or I want to join the club, I want to do that. You give them the invites, you have an information page ready to go. You're going to be the one to review and approve competitive matches and schedules for the lab. So all your tier 2 and tier 3 coaches are going to be wanting to meet with their teams. Your job is to manage your master calendar and just, it's just a Google calendar and just say, hey, here's the days. You show up this day, you show up this day, you show up this day, right? So you're the decision maker for that. We're also going to be developing and supervise any sort of broadcasting of the matches, right? So obviously the buck stops with you, so you have to make sure that nobody's swearing on stream or doing anything inappropriate, making fart jokes or trash talking too hard, right? So you're kind of the liaison to check in on all that stuff. The other good important one that I wish I did a lot sooner is maintaining information on student gamer history for competitions, right? When they apply to college, they're like, okay, so how many games have you played? Do you have recorded footage of that? And I learned, as a mistake that I made, I learned that even with high school sports, the school doesn't record any of the matches for football. Like it's not the school doesn't help with any of the college recruitment, like NFL recruitment, college recruitment side of things. Like if you want footage of yourself playing football, your parents got to record it or work, hopefully your school has a program for that. So very quickly, I ended up being the person coordinating, like, all right, you guys record your games, throw it up on Google Drive, and maintaining that database of all the recorded games. And then again, you got to set the safe and inclusive environment, having that no tolerance policy for anything rude or toxic, because you want everyone to be having a good time, right? You want everyone to feel like this is their safe space. They can engage with gaming here. They can have fun. They can play with their students or their team and kind of have a good space. Any sort of outreach stuff should probably go through you, right? Any sort of communication to news, media, other schools. I always want to make sure I'm the one writing the email, or at least, if it's someone we have a long relationship with already, I'm CC'd on all communications, right? There's no private chats, no private text between coaches and students. Everything is run on our Discord server. If there is any sort of group chat or video calls, right, I need to be made aware of it. So I have I have like an overall view of everything happening in our program. I also am the final key holders to all our social media, our website, our Instagram, our Twitch channel, so that even secondary coaches and stuff like that, I make sure I coordinate who has access to those accounts, right? You don't want a student hopping on your Instagram live and being like, hey, I just beat this other school, how they suck, right? Even the best intended students will have weak moments, and you want to make sure you're that safety net for that. And then just in general, you got to keep your esports facility running, right? A lot of colleges and scholarships might reach out to you. So you might be, as director, you might, if not you, assist someone in managing, like, here's a scholarship day, they're doing college applications day, or, which colleges are you interested in? I will be the contact point. I'll reach out to that college and see what scholarships they have for you. Okay, skills trainer, the tier 2 one. This is going to be, they're like we said before, they're the in-depth knowledge for the individual games. Not only good at the games, but good as a role model, right? For the students, right? You can have someone who's really good at the game, but they're super toxic. They're like an awful person. You don't want to do that. So you want to have conversations with everyone who wants to be your coach, talk story, and figure out what you want to do with it. This person, right? So this technical skill, right? So this is like your soccer coach or your football. You're like the athletic director, and this is like the soccer coach, right? Soccer coach meets individually with the soccer team, right? Or the skills trainer, right? They meet with them, say, all right, we're going over dribbling drills and that kind of stuff. So they run the exercises, drills, and practices with your team. They will record the matches and send them to you, right? They on their end, on the moral side and role model side, they'll maintain that safe and inclusive environment for their individual set of students. Okay, and they might assist with outreach with other programs, right? So these are going to be the ones who know enough about esports where you can be like, hey, is this a good college that we should work with, right? These are your subject area experts, so to speak. Okay, and of course, if you don't want to spend a whole lot of time managing your program, they're the most driven. So you can offset some of your duties to them, like, hey, open up the lab, lock up the lab, right? You can help manage our Twitch channel. I don't know anything about Twitch. Can you help manage it, et cetera, et cetera? Right? Third one, right? Obviously, your supervisors and community volunteers, they don't need to know anything about esports like you. Like, they just adult willing to support these students, right? Some basic computer skills would be useful, like, if a monitor shuts down or something's not working, they at least know to unplug, plug it back in, or at least report it to you that this computer is doing like this. They take a picture of it, they send it to you. that kind of stuff, right? So you don't have to be there every day. They can be the one that opens up the lab, welcomes the students, right? Greets them, says hello, see, hey, how was your day, right? Make them feel at home. You know, if they see a kid crying or engaged with like emotion, right? They can go over and check in on them, especially in gaming, if they get really invested, like they just lost the state championship or something like that. You know, having a second adult there or someone who's like a mentor to them is a great asset. They can also help with a lot of the club day and other events, right? If you guys do like a big brothers, big sisters style thing where the upperclassmen bring an elementary school student in and they play together, or you know, ninth and eighth grader, or however how you guys set it up. But they can help you manage the day-to-day of the club. Okay, so we're gonna be finding your esports arena. So you got, you know, planning doc, you got kids. Where are you gonna do your esports program? Okay, it can be mobile or it can be a fixed arena space, right? Each school is going to be different, so you may want to go around your computer lab or around your school and see what resources your school has. Any computer lab, like a lot of these games are designed to run on 10-year-old systems, right? So any computer lab that you have that's not used after school or has a free lunch period, you could probably talk to them about getting a game set up in there. You probably want PC and wired internet access. Wi-Fi is probably okay for high school and like middle school, high school level skills, because you know a little bit of lag here and there at the high school level is not going to make a bigger difference, right? Communication skills are a much bigger thing. Okay, so some kind of computer lab space that you can have. Libraries have been used a lot of, right? There's been a big push lately to pivot libraries away from the silent, don't talk story, don't quiet and reserved, to making them more lively third spaces. So then there's been a lot of libraries that set up a pod room for their esports arena, and they're kind of okay with having more activity and lived in spaces in the library. They also tend to have some extra computer spaces that you can adopt and adjust with as well. You can also co-partner with them, right? If there's funding and grant funding available, like library plus makerspace plus esports arena, that's a lot of really good spaces there. If you're really lucky and your admin has some extra closet space, a gaming room is great, right? I've had, you know, back in my high school era, we took an old janitor's supply closet. We got broken computers that they're going to throw out. We were told, all right, if you guys want to program, like let's, you know, try fix these Windows 95 computers. And then we managed to get StarCraft running on there, and it made it happen, right? We put little lights up in the walls, we put posters, made it homely. You just need some sort of dedicated gaming room for it. And then once you have proof of concept, you can expand and go at it from there. So any sort of room could work, right? If you have like a MacBook laptop set and that's all you have, you can have a mobile laptop set, find an extra room and run it that way. Some of our other schools, like Punahou School, is all laptop and mobile based. We have PC desktops. Some of the other schools that we work with on the Big Island, they don't even do the computers. They just have like 2 Nintendo Switches, and like they use the old the blackboard screens that they threw in everybody's classrooms. They just use that as their display screen to get started. If you don't have any of that stuff, it's totally allowed. You can totally just run your entire program online. All during COVID, our entire program was remote only. Students played from home. If they had a Switch, they hopped on Discord together. They did all remote via Zoom. And that's where our program grew the most, actually, is because, you know, students, as we know, students are gaming no matter what anyway. So if they're playing from home, you can just be like, okay, we're doing online supervision for your kids. And the parents loved it because they're not like, oh, my kid's playing online with a bunch of strangers. Like, no, they're on a video call. I know those kids. I know their parents. I know that teacher. Okay, they're okay. I can go live my life a little bit and let my student have some game time with their friends during this whole lockdown. Flex classroom space is really good. Maker spaces, that kind of stuff. A lot of them will have mobile blackboards or anything that, you know, those display screens that you can use and adjust with. Those work really good as arena space. If you do have funding, we'll go over a little bit into how to get that all set up as well. Okay, based on your space and the students that you have, right, we're going to be talking about some of the games that you can select to play. Okay, in terms of age appropriate middle school games, right? Again, check in with your admin, do the research with your students. I found most likely we've been doing a lot of Minecraft, not necessarily competitive Minecraft, but using it as a community club tool, right? Super Smash Bros. Which is Nintendo. You play as, you know, Pikachu or your favorite Link video game characters, and then it's a beat 'em up brawl. But in terms of violence level, it's, you know, our elementary school students use it. Rocket League, which is basically a remote control soccer game, remote control, literally soccer with remote controlled cars. Pretty straightforward. Nothing in there is going to be super offensive to anyone. There's a lot of fun and chaos in that game. League of Legends for some schools, right? There's no guns, there's no realistic guns, there's no, you know, super violent mechanics. So a lot of schools will allow that. The online community in the past has been, you know, kind of a very competitive, very rough scene. So I would only do League of Legends if you're able to turn off global chat so they don't engage with other people, or just play with other schools or with each other, right? You can do ARAM, it's a game mode in League of Legends that you can just play with each other. Overwatch for some schools, we had a really big Overwatch program that kind of fell off the cliff, but we're starting up again with Overwatch 2, and both of those games are specifically tailored to be okay for the widest audience possible. Okay, so although there are some characters with like rocket launchers and like, you know, a big cannon that shoots scrap metal, for 99% of the time, most likely your school is going to be okay with it. Switch games are really popular at the middle school, elementary level. This is games like Overcooked 2 and other community co-op games where the kids play together and their communication skills are tested, right? Wouldn't do any single player games where they sit there and play by yourself. The key is co-op multiplayer games. Even something like Stardew Valley with co-op, which I don't think is going to be on Switch yet. That's a PC one. Eventually they might have co-op on Switch. We'll see. You know, Smash Bros, Mario Party, Mario Kart, right? Those kind of games are really great. Nintendo does a great job at policing their mainline titles. High school level. So now that they've played a little bit at the elementary, middle school, if you're a high school program, pretty much anything that HHSAA sanctions is safe. We reference a lot of the collegiate programs. We reference a lot of the, you know, 7,000 schools in Texas has building out towards their program, and they do a lot of vetting on their end as well, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, League of Legends is the big one, right? Overwatch 2, or sorry, Overwatch 2 now, Rocket League, to a lesser extent, Fortnite, Hearthstone, which is a card-based game. Runeterra is another one. There's a bunch of those virtual card games, Magic the Gathering. Obviously, Super Smash Bros. Any of the titles from the middle school continue up into the high school level. We implement a lot of the sports games now, because during the off season, a lot of our football, soccer players, or if anyone's injured and can't make the main practices, they're like, okay, well, they can play FIFA, they can play the soccer games, they can play NBA, basketball, football, all their sports titles. Then we have Valorant. So Valorant is the Riot's game's newest. It's a shooter game, but they specifically designed it to be more arcade and cartoony, so that none of the games are photorealistic, none of the guns are real guns, none of them are photorealistic, and they use key specific terminologies that are classroom safe. It's not kills, right? Eliminations, right? It's not blowing up with a bomb, it's a spike, right? So they specifically tailor the experience to be something for a competitive scene in a high school and college level, not something that would be triggered by any sort of popular current, you know, rough current events or political discourse. Apex followed a similar vein. It's a bit more on the mature side. It's a bit more on the competitive side. So on some schools, you may want to play with that ear to ear. Although none of the guns are real guns, right? They're a bit more photorealistic in their you know, loading and shooting and all that stuff. And some schools have like a no FPS policy, just from years past, back when the main FPS games were like Counter-Strike, whereas the games where it was literally you're playing as police officers or counterterrorism units shooting and killing people, right? So a lot of the esports industry has matured the same way football added the forward pass. They changed the rules and they made it so a lot of these games are safe. Again, like I talked about before, my test is if you want a program, if you want a game, show me there's a college willing to pay for your STEM degree for playing this video game, then I'll allow it. Okay, depending on the games they play, you're gonna have to pick some hardware, right? Like we said before, most of these titles run on old equipment. So any computer that your school has from the last 10 years can probably run League of Legends at the very minimum specs. You know, a Nintendo Switch will run you less than a helmet, a football helmet. So a lot of the startup costs are pretty low. All those games I talked about before are free. You do not pay to play them. Okay, they make their money through Battle Pass, which is like a subscription that you can pay if you want extra costumes for your character or skins or loot box type mechanics, but none of it affects gameplay outcomes. And a lot of those programs like League of Legends, if you're a school, they just release all the skins and everything with League unlocked on your campus so that there's no financial difference between players, right? So if they're playing with you on your program, there's never a situation where my other student paid more money, therefore they do better, okay? That's another thing to check with any of the games they want to play. Most of the popular ones are pretty safe in that regard. If you ever have questions about a specific title, feel free to reach out to myself or a local esports program or college, and they can fill you in. Okay, diving into, we have time to get through everything. Mid-range hardware, mid-range hardware examples are over there, right? Pretty much your standard gaming computer from 4, 5, 6 years ago will handle it. You can even Frankenstein it. When you're building and buying your systems, right? I mean, I would suggest in the beginning, especially if you're watching the show, you're probably not someone who custom builds their own gaming PCs. So use a pre-built one. Here in Hawaii, I use Amazon for a lot of my ordering because the return service is great, right? You get a computer that's not working, send it back, get your full refund, right? It also lets you track your budgets and everything really good. There are a whole bunch of pre-built suppliers. There's iBuyPower, CyberPower PC, Alienware, Dell Alienware, Republic of Gamers. I mean, pretty much anything that any of the top pre-built PCs that you'll find on Amazon or Best Buy or anything like that will, even Costco, right, will serve that. Costco is another great one, right? You can go to Costco eBay and go get yourself a set of gaming computers for your computer for a pretty good deal. I should probably go over. So you can Google each of these or throw this into ChatGPT or something and get like definitions for each of these. But basically, processor is how fast the computer is making decisions and thinking, right? Memory is how much short-term memory the computer has, right? How much information it can store at that single time. Graphics card is where they offload some of the processes to the graphics card so that you have a higher refresh rate. More shiny things show up on your screen, right? Storage is how many games you can install, how much physical files you can fit long-term after computer's been turned off. Operating system, right? Obviously Windows 10. If your school has like an enterprise license, you can just run that. Network wired interconnection. So that's the cable, Ethernet cable on the back of your computer that plugs up to your school's network and the firewall. Obviously additional components, right? You need a keyboard, you need a mouse, you know, some sort of headset. You don't want speakers because you don't want 5 kids blasting audio at the same time. Okay, power supply, how much power that's going to be providing, how much watts it can provide your computer and what it can draw. As long as that number, there's tools that count this all up, but the price difference between a 450 watt and a 600 watt is like $10. So just get a 600 watt power supply and future-proof yours. Monitor, which is what you see your game on, right? 1080p resolution with a refresh rate. All of them right now are 60 hertz. Hardcore gamers are going to want 144 hertz, but if you're at middle school, high school level, like really your skill level is not high enough where you're going to win a game or lose the game based on the difference, right? Sometimes the cost of it is less than $30, so sometimes it might be worth it. And pretty much all schools in Hawaii have enough internet connection to run it. 10 megabits, which is less than your cell phone is going to get. Okay, high end. So if you can secure some funding and you want to future-proof your program for 5-6 years or so, maybe a 6-year cycle on equipment is probably safe. Intel i5 or AMD Ryzen 5, so a slightly higher end mid-range graphic memory CPU, entry level current generation graphics card, a little bit more memory for your short term, so you can maybe run broadcasting and the video game and YouTube at the same time. Enough storage to save your game footage and everything else. You may even want to get an external hard drive for saving all your game footage. Obviously Windows 10, wired internet like we did before. This one you can scale up your monitors a little bit. We have 1440p, 144 hertz monitors, which are, I think, like $250, $300 now. Keyboard, mouse, headset, mic. You do not need fancy LED light keyboards and mice, right? Any of them will work fine. Some of the kids might prefer having fancy lights that match your school colors. Price difference is like $5, so it's up to you if you want to engage in that or not. Once you get to the higher end, you want to worry about cooling in your room. I got to double check. I think the heat generation for these computers is equal to 2 extra adults. So work with your physical plant to make sure if you're in one of the programs in Hawaii that has air conditioned classrooms, adding 10 computers is like adding 20 adults to the room. Okay, so just be aware that they do generate heat that way as well. Okay, so you got your program set up. Maybe you have your weekly play sessions. You guys hang out and play video games together. We're going to be going into partnerships you can establish with local community areas. This is specifically tailored to Hawaii, but if you happen to be somehow watching this from elsewhere, you can look up local groups for yourself as well. So now that you got your core group going, you want to start doing outreach with other programs, right? Establish partnerships with local businesses, right? So they might be, here's $300 for a pizza party, right? Gaming organizations, right? Like HHSAA, Hawaii Esports Alliance, right? HPU, right? Vanta leagues. They can give you access to the skill trainers. So for example, Vanta leagues has a very robust online, they have like something like 500 to 600 online coaches right now. And they all go through background checks, vetting, and they get trained in curriculum so that you can just, you pay them once per semester or so, and they will give you, they will have someone dedicated for you, right? So they have a rule of 2. So they have their remote coach and they have a moderator. So that in no situation is your student left alone with an adult that you don't have physical access to. So there's always a rule of 2 for any of their online performance. And they've been working great for our middle school program, right? And they've branched off into high school, but we mostly use them for middle school training just because I can't be in 17 places at once. There's also a free tournament. So from all of these, right? Vanta Leagues has free tournaments that you can hop in and just play. There are also paid tournaments. So HHSAA is currently partnered officially with a contract with Play Versus. And we're part of one of the super coach representatives talking about, you pay either a one annual fee from your athletics program or pay per student as you go. And then you have access to that whole season to compete with. HSEL, High School Esports League, as they're an old time company. They've been around for a while. They're really straightforward. We have two or three tournaments per year. Pay to join the tournament. You get to compete nationally at a high school esports tournament that's vetted, and their whole matchmaking system is automated. So their program is really, really robust. You can also, if you don't want to deal with kind of getting involved with the competitive side just yet, you can just find a sister school and partner with them, right? So right now we have an outreach program. Some of our leadership students reach out and talk to a bunch of the other local schools. So like we're going to do a scrim with Farrington High School, Punahou High School, a lot on the Big Island, even Molokai, just having the kids have an opportunity to just, hey, all right, we're going to all meet on Zoom or on Google Meet or Discord Saturday at 10 p.m. and we're going to play a game, that kind of stuff, right? And that's, the kids love that because they don't really, especially at middle school level, they don't really care about like, oh, I got the national state trophy. They're like, oh, I beat this other school, or like I got to meet that one, so on and so forth. Another fun thing you can do, we have an Iolani Esports Invitational. So we just run student organized. So all I do is sign off on the paperwork. The students run a tournament and they invite whoever and they come play, have a fun time. Some of the games are shuffled, so you don't even get assigned to a random team of students from other schools, and that helps build the camaraderie and partnerships with everything. Okay, game day, time to go to your first match. You've scheduled a match, you got your team all set up, you did all the background stuff. Again, 10 steps, right? You build your program, Now it's time for your first match, okay? For you or your skills trainer, right? You want to confirm the schedule and location the day before. Make sure nobody's out sick, make sure the game's still on. Make sure you review the game rules and regulations with your team. Okay, this is like, hey, okay, for this game, you each take turn banning a map so that you guys can choose which game you play. You're only allowed these characters or this rule set. Each of the tournaments that we saw in the last video will go over and cover each of those things. Confirm your lineup and strategies and make sure all the equipment is working, right? So we do a checklist. Each kid has a piece of like a digital checklist. Does my headset work? Does my keyboard work? Does my mouse work? Does the monitor work? Does the computer turn on? Can I get into a game? Does the network work? So they know where they come in, they just do that little checklist for themselves, okay? And then you're gonna, as the game goes, you may want to monitor their play, so you can be in a voice call with them. You don't want to be coaching them as the game goes. Some of the tournaments have rules against that, but you just want to be listening to make sure any of the conversation is wholesome and appropriate, at least until the culture is developed, and then you can trust them a bit more. You also want to make sure you share your contact info with the other team's coach, and maybe even, you know, give them a quick call or text and be like, hey, we're ready on our end. You guys ready to go? So that you guys can be the adult connections to make sure the game runs smoothly. Okay. And then you want to debrief with your team afterwards. So after the game, was like, oh yeah, that sucks, we lost, but you know, what did you learn from that, right? Make sure that their losses are positive experiences, and make sure their wins don't go to their head, right? It's like, you did good, right? But how can you do better, right? Were you a good sport? Were you someone who was supportive of the program in general? Okay. Then finally, we can go to how to store and record all the stuff that we covered. Okay. For recording and gameplay, right? Couple of tools that you can use, right? You want to have the students learn how to do this, or your skill trainer, but in the beginning you might need to do this. Record and stream your games, right? This is for, just like football, just like anything else, how to let it so all the parents at home can watch and see their students play. There's some recording software, right, to capture the footage of the game. You might want a webcam and mic to capture the audio commentary and the player communication during the game. And you want to use some of the free video editing softwares, or if you guys have Adobe, you can use that, or iMovie, to edit and enhance that footage and put it online. You wanting to organize your files in some sort of logical and easy to order, easy to manage facility. So on our Google Drive, we have a year and then a game title, and then we have all the footage in there for each team. So we have a team folder. Free video editing, right? DaVinci Resolve, I think that's a Blackmagic's one, is a really good, really powerful free video editing software. Adobe, if you have it, any of those other, iMovie, I covered that already. Okay, then the streaming services. So if you want to do live broadcasts of your games to all the parents at home and to the rest of your school, you can make a private link that broadcasts just to your community, or you can broadcast publicly. One thing I suggest, so all of these, OBS, Twitch, XSplit, those types of tools, mostly OBS and Twitch are the ones I work with. They have a delay feature. So you're broadcasting your game live, you're talking there, you have maybe you and one of the other parents or a student is talking to you through the game. You'd be like, oh, so, you know, what's happening on the screen? Explain to me what's happening on the screen. Kid answers back, and then something really exciting happens, and he's like, oh, you know, swear word, that was amazing. And you're like, okay, wait. Then you just press the delay button. Your recording is maybe 5 minutes delayed from the live footage, so that you can pause the footage if anything happens, right? Shut down the stream, rebroadcast it again, and you'll only lose that little section of footage that you can, you know, police anything that goes out. The way we do it is because we found live broadcast isn't super important. We just do the whole thing with our commentary and everything and record it to a file. So we just, you know, welcome to Ilani Esports Invitational. Today we have Punahou High School and Moanalua High School competing, run through the whole game. And when we're done, we save, record that file, put it to our Google Drive, and then we can use that same file and load it up into one of these programs and just play it back afterwards as if it was live. Okay, so that's another safe way to do it, especially if you're not on site or I'm not on site. I like the extra safety layer of just saying like, okay, just record the whole game and we'll just broadcast it later after work so that all the parents can watch it live, and the kids can be there with them, right, to explain what's going on. Make sure, depending on your school, whatever school policies you have, right, parent permission form, if you're recording, student permission form, make sure if you need to use usernames or first name, nicknames for whatever compliance rules that you have, just make sure you're within compliance for any sort of recording of students. Okay, now it's time to just sit back and enjoy, right? You recorded your first game, you played your first match, all the wheels are in motion, so it's on autopilot now, right? You're gonna be playing your game. This was one where my lower school students, not gonna play the audio, but you can just see the excitement on it. They just found out we're the state championships for Rocket League, and our lower school students were watching the live broadcast from our upper school students, where they're just cheering and excited and kind of all over the place, and that level of feeling is awesome, right? It's 10 steps. It's a bit of work for you to get your program running, but the end result, seeing them be able to use gaming as part of their academic feeling is amazing. Okay, so secondary things that you can do to kind of upkeep your program, just make sure you collect feedback regularly. You can go to the statistics. A lot of those play versus and some of those programs have exact gameplay footage and statistics, right? So they count exactly how much goal they make, how they perform as analytics that you can work with your computer science program or something. Make sure you set goals and a mentorship program. So your leadership team, right? So my 9th grade leadership team graduated. By 10th grade, they have another 8th grader or 9th grader that they're mentoring, so that when they graduate, leadership passes on. So it's a conveyor belt, just like any other program. Make sure you don't just do the gaming, do team building and competitive events, right? So we do like workouts, yoga classes. They go out to the beach together, they hang out, they just do fun games. They do pizza nights, pizza parties, that kind of thing. And make sure it's open communication, right? You want everyone in your program to be safe, that that if something goes wrong or someone does something bad, you're not going to jump down their throat and really strangle them for it, but you'll help solve the situation. So anything that happens in my lab, I make sure I communicate it immediately to my admin, so they have that level of trust with me, that knows I'm not going to try and pad anything that happens. I'm like, hey, we're going to figure out this esports program together, so you're going to be aware of any swear words or anything wonky that happens as we're building up our program. And then just you want to keep updating and adjusting your program as you go. And again, if you do really good, like have fun with it, right? Celebrate the successes. Have like an awards ceremony at the end for most wholesome player. We do our state championship trophy awards at the end of the year. And then if each team can pick an MVP, so each of your adults in the room can pick a student they think had the most growth or was the most wholesome and made it like fun for everyone. And we made little trophies in our fabrication lab, 3D printed, and gave them out to people as well. Okay, so again, startup model for success, right? Like a quick review, get your leadership team, find some community, identify community volunteers you can work with, just find some space that you can work with in your lab, right? Find a game that doesn't require you to buy a $4,000 gaming computer. Start with like a 500, to start with whatever you can run with on your current hardware. Show proof of concept. Have just a couple community events in lunch period, once per month, come and play video games with us, right? Set up some sort of Discord or Google Classroom or other community tool approved by your admin, so you can start facilitating and building that community. And then have some sort of parent information night, talking about, hey, we're going to be competing, we're going to be setting up. So this is your minimum viable product, right? You can do this. You've got an esports program running, and then you can use the 10 steps we covered before to kind of dive more into it. Extra credit. So this is something if you're a fitness buff and you want to really break the stereotypes for gaming. You can see what my hair used to look like. It was very long. PE program, right? Our founding group of students wanted to really break stereotypes, academic excellence, and physical fitness. They wanted to be like Dragon Ball Z, Ginyu Force, in shape, 6-packs. So they started a PE credit program that allowed students to reallocate their PE class time towards other academic courses and study hall, and then still get adequate physical training and conditioning for their program. The philosophy being, in esports, it's how well your brain competes against someone else's. So if your body and your body only works as well, or your brain only works as well as your body is maintained, right? So if you want to do really well, you can't be out of shape and lazy and not thinking about things through and sluggish and that kind of stuff. So we do calisthenics, we do cardio, and then we do weight room 3 times a week with our students. We're not creating that out of, I'm not just pulling a rabbit out of the bag for that, the hat for that. We're mimicking the best practices from our collegiate and pro teams. So pro teams have on-staff dietitians, they have skill trainers, they have their own gyms in their facilities. So they're all tied into that. So we're just mimicking what they do at the collegiate and professional level. Okay. And then of course we keep conversations going with those college programs to make sure we're matching best practices as well. Additional resources, right? I'll have these, we covered most of it, right? Different tools and stuff. With the timeline that we have right now, you can just reference it. We do have a coaches Discord. I'll move as far as way I can over there, so you can see to join up and talk to other Hawaii esports coaches. Okay, so we're gonna enter the question and answers phase for this one, since we're just doing it as a video series. Not too much any other question answer stuff, unless any of our TA hosts have anything they want to fill in or feel that we should cover up. Other than that, we're done. You've started an esports program and we're set and good to go.
That was great. I liked
Yeah.
it. Lots of
Thank
good
you.
information. You said you were gonna post the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Yes, I can post a PowerPoint as well.
Sounds good.
Oh, test, test. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
So I run the esports program at Sacred Hearts.
Yes.
And I guess I'm having trouble getting students interested. We had a club day, and initially a lot of students signed up, but after that, really only, I want to say maybe 10-20% showed like actual interest.
Sexual engagement on it.
Yeah.
I would say so the way I would look at it, okay, I'm gonna put the link in here for everybody. Okay, so the way I would look at it for our esports program is I never want to be in a situation where I'm convincing people to play. So especially if you're starting off, having that core group of students who do want to just use the space as a hangout area. Our biggest competitors for space and time are going to be other sports, right? So they're going to have like, oh, sorry, I can't hang out. I can't do it this season because I got volleyball, or I got soccer, or I got swimming. I would say for yours, just having the space available for them. And then if they want to use it, they can use it, right? So our program wanes and grows year to year, depending on student availability. I wouldn't try to specifically convince kids to play esports. More like if they want to, then we have the resources available for you to do it. If you're looking to pivot away from like a set competitive team, maybe just have it with the events community, right? So maybe 3 times a semester we have like like a teacher dunk booth, right? So you hop on a Smash Bros and say, all right, who here can come and beat the teacher, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Another one is word of mouth and advertising is a big part of it too. Just because all the programs on your campus are competing for students. Parent info night might be another one you can avenue, because a lot of it, right? Because you probably haven't had an opportunity to talk to the students who didn't come in. Some of it might be that the parents are just not on board with esports, and that's not really a battle we can fight unless we like create some video content about what the program's like, right? How some of the matches are, and then get that out to the parents. Our biggest growth we saw was getting into like the parent bulletin, where it says like, oh, we have this, we have a visiting college coming in to talk about esports. Any students who want to register can sign on here and then meet up on that day, right? That might be another avenue you can play with.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What kind of games and space do you guys have?
We actually have a room dedicated to it. Mainly just the Switch games. A lot of the students are interested in.
Yeah.
I do have a small group of 7th graders who are interested, kind of, but some of them are mainly just using the space to hang out. And but a few, I have maybe 2 or 3 that are interested, like in I guess competing seriously in these different programs.
Opportunity you can do. So we're seeing in a lot of schools, they're not getting the critical mass. Like, if they're just starting, there's like maybe 3 or 4 kids who are friends already and they really want to play together, but they don't have enough for a full team plus 2 subs. I think Vanta Leagues has like open teams. I would have to reach out to them and double check if they have it Hawaii specific. But in the past, they've had, when we have odd students, like if I have 7 students and I want 2 League of Legends teams, I'll give them 2 of those students and they partner them with another school. So their esports team is half my school, half their school, right? And then their remote coach works with them on that regard. So that might be a way for you to at least get those students the access to the competitive field that they want. And then as other people see them competing and engaging and doing well, they might hop in and join in as the gaming as well.
Okay, thanks.
The last thing I would tie into is if any of them into the broadcast or tech side, you can partner with any of the other programs that you have, right? So you can do esports and broadcasting services. So if there's like, a tennis team or any other athletic team that maybe doesn't have live broadcasting for it, you guys can learn your base skills with broadcasting, OBS and everything, and then work as their broadcast team as well, right? Because then that gets some of the social circles juggling around a little bit, and then more people are welcoming. One of the big problems I run into is it's very intimidating for new students to just walk into the room and be like, hey, I want to play esports, but I don't know any of the people there. So sometimes even bringing the switches out to like where the kids hang out, right, and having it on the screens there, like, all right, it's lunch Smash Bros session, right? Anyone can hop up, play the game for a little bit, couple minutes, and then leave. To make it non-committal is a good way to kind of, show them it's not going to bite, right? Like you don't have to commit fully to this program to kind of engage with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely something to try. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Bye, Gabe.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Bye.
Yes, Brittany. You gotta say your exits. If there's okay, I'm gonna say it to an empty room. All right, mahalo to Gabriel and for everyone's participation. We hope you found this session helpful and made some valuable connections. Special thanks again to our sponsors, Sacred Hearts Academy Honolulu and the Augustine Educational Foundation for making this conference free for the past 10 years. Please help us complete the survey on the website iteach808.com so we can continue to receive grant funding. You will also receive a certificate of participation after completing the survey and automatically enter to win one of 10 $10 Target gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. The survey will also be sent out to the email address that you're registered with. Please make sure to check your spam folder for any emails from iteach808hawaii@gmail.com. Thank you for being here today. Have a great day.